The first presidential debate of 2024 is just hours away. In a historic first, a sitting U.S. president will debate his predecessor. President Biden and former President Trump will also face new rules, including muted mics and no live audience. David Litt joins me now. He's a former Obama speechwriter and a best-selling author. David, thanks for your time. Let me start with this. Does having this debate so early at the end of June here raise or lower the stakes?
Well, Jeff, thank you for having me on. I think it's a great question, and I think in a lot of ways it raises the stakes because the summer is often a time when candidates are trying to define their opponents, and this is a moment when either of these candidates might end up defining either their opponent or themselves. I think it's particularly an opportunity and challenge for President Biden because the Biden theory of the case has been once voters tune in, they're going to come back his way. Some of the voters who maybe are, moved from Biden to undecided. And so I think this debate for them, I think part of that theory is the earlier they tune in, the better.
David, when you're talking to a candidate about debate prep and trying to balance creating a viral moment with answering something with substance, what do you say? Are they trying to actively create these viral moments?
Well, who doesn't want a viral moment? But at the same time, I think the most important thing about politics right now is the voters who decide elections don't like politics. And what that means is if we, the American people, hear lines that seem scripted, that seem, oh, there's a really good zinger, then we tune out.
Yep.
And so I think the moment, if there is going to be a moment, it's going to be something very real. That doesn't mean you can't practice and prep and think about what your message is, but it has to come from the heart. It has to come from the candidate. And it's really about identifying what they have to say rather than about putting words in a candidate's mouth.
What do you think of the format? No audience, muted mics when a candidate shouldn't be talking, and commercial breaks.
So I think it's going to be a big challenge. The commercial breaks might be the most interesting and challenging difference in this particular format, because one of the things that this debate, I think, even more than others, is going to be about is this basic sense of how each candidate appears on stage. People worry about Trump's temperament for a lot of reasons. There's certainly concerns about Joe Biden and his age. And so both of these candidates, just their presence is going to matter a lot. And so taking all of those breaks could either help or hurt them. And I don't think we know yet how that's going to play out. I
also think it's interesting that they're going to be positioned so closely together, relatively speaking. I mean, this is not a debate where there's this chasm of 30 feet. I think it's 6 or just 8 feet apart.
Yeah, I think that is all of these little things, right? It's like any sort of competition. The rules that are set out beforehand can have a big effect on the outcome. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing that we may see, because part of President Biden's job tonight, or at least his opportunity tonight, is to get under Donald Trump's skin. I mean, we saw him do that during the debates in 2020, and we saw Trump really lose control, which is one of the reasons why we need a mute button this time around. And so I do think that we're going to see, is that proximity, is that going to make this more challenging for Trump as he tries to keep it together, or did he learn some lessons from last time and shows up and sort of behaves himself a little bit?
But that's an interesting point you make about talking about getting under their skin, because I think in that first debate in 2020, Trump's goal was to try to get under Biden's skin because he was trailing in the polls, and I think most people agree that Trump failed to do so. He even acknowledged that it wasn't a great debate. You think the script is sort of flipped in a way that Biden needs to get under Trump's skin?
Well, I'm not so much sure that he needs to. I think that the most important thing Biden can do is just get out there and assure Americans that he looks like someone who can do the job. I think he did that in the State of the Union, and I think that's his job again tonight. But I do think that if you look at that 2020 debate, President Trump, he also said something. That was when he called on the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. And that was a kind of precursor to January 6th. It got a lot of people rightly alarmed, and it was something that slipped out in a moment. I don't think that Trump particularly thought about that in a strategic way. So those kinds of moments where you can get your opponent to say something that is real, it's not a gaffe, it's true, but it's something they may not have wanted to say. If you can do that in a debate, that's very powerful.
You think we're going to be surprised by something tonight?
Yes, but if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be surprised by it.
All right, very good. We'll speak to you again tomorrow and find out. David, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to head to Las Vegas now, where CBS News campaign reporter Nidia Cavazos has been speaking to Latino voters there ahead of this debate. Nidia, Latino voters were critical to Joe Biden's win in 2020. As you know, they're expected to play another crucial role again this year. What issues do they say matter to them?
Jeff, Latino voters here in the state of Nevada ahead of this first presidential debate say that what most matters to them continues to be the economy. Here in Nevada, Latino voters are concerned about the rising cost of living here in Nevada and also their wages. And it's important to note that we have to remember that Nevada has a very large service industry. So these are a lot of hotel workers, restaurant workers who are concerned about their economic status as we approach these elections. But this is not the only issue of importance that they continue to mention. We often hear on the campaign trail across battleground states, including in Nevada, that they're also concerned about immigration. On one hand, we have several Latino voters who say that they support and they want more executive actions from President Biden. But on the other hand, we also have other Latino voters who say that they want more border security and they consider the constant flow of immigrants to the southern border unfair, as they say that they often get more help than those immigrants who have lived here for many, many years. And so we get a mixed variety, mixed opinions when it comes to Latino voters. But we know for a fact that they're going to be listening in closely to tonight's debate. And let's hear what they have to say.
I am leaning a little more towards Biden, but I can't confidently say I'm particularly, partial to one another. My reasoning behind that is I feel both of them have done things that have been better for the community, some things that have not been so good. I understand that Trump has a certain track record which hasn't been the most Hispanic positive.
In this case, we spoke to many young Latino voters, and this is what we often come across. When it comes to young Latino voters, they're often undecided. So tonight is going to be very important. They're going to be listening in to what both candidates have to say, as they're still undecided, they're still shopping around, and they're trying to make up their minds well ahead of November of 2024.
Nidia, as we know, wholesale immigration reform once again did not happen this year in Washington, which led the White House to issue this executive order. How is that being received by the Latino community?
Well, yesterday I got the chance to speak to several DACA recipients here in Nevada, and what they said is that despite the fact that Biden did roll out several executive actions a couple of weeks ago, particularly for DACA recipients, that some of them are not necessarily benefiting from these executive actions, and so they feel that they've been abandoned by President Biden. And so it's a combination of several, DACA recipients, Latino voters all across battleground states who are calling on Biden to fulfill his campaign promises from back in 2020. So in a sense, they feel that they've been abandoned, but on the other hand, too, they fear a potential Trump 2025. And so we get, again, mixed opinions from Latino voters.
So what have voters told you they want to hear from the candidates tonight?
Definitely immigration. They want to see President Biden and former President Donald Trump address the economy. But what I often hear from young Latino voters, too, is that they really want to hear some sort of substance when it comes to climate change and, of course, abortion. We know that Democrats and the Biden and Harris campaign have been trying to mobilize voters across battleground states, particularly when it comes to abortion. And so this is one of the issues that we often hear from young voters, that even when they say that they're undecided and they're not so enthusiastic about either Biden or Trump, they say they really care about these particular issues.
Okay, Nidia Cavazos, thank you very much.